Hello from New York City. Please share out an invite. I hope you all are doing well. So I just finished recording on Instagram because I'm doing a lot more on Instagram now because that gives me the ability to speak on a broader level. Let's talk about love tonight. Let's talk about the collective consciousness. Let's talk about the word forgiveness and what that truly means. Let's talk about the lies and misconceptions that we ignore. Let's talk what it means to be a good person and to be the conscious elite. And yes, there is a conscious elite because the conscious elite is the people or are the people who are able to detach themselves and free the mind from slavery. And it's the truth. Because we're all manifesting, right? And we want to manifest and we want to be in a place where we're always in a field that brings balance. But life is very unbalanced. And when I say unbalanced, it's because things change rapidly. And we see a lot of people losing it. And we see a lot of people who don't want to speak openly and honestly because they are so used to speaking only positive that they forget that real discussion is essential. And you could be in your truth and to speak honestly, and still be a conscious elite, a spiritual person. People are very afraid of words. People are afraid of words because they believe that they are spells and energy, and they are. But you have to determine the difference between conversation and things that we are addressing and be able to discuss them and have solutions as you are changing the energy. But people are afraid to do that because people want to be heard, but they don't want other people to speak. Or we are segregated because of our beliefs that we also demonize what we do as we are stepping into enlightenment, as we are stepping into a knowing. Things are always not going to go smoothly. And we use the words to twist them to mean anything but what they really mean. So if I say I love you, love has many different levels and variances, right? But people use the word I love you these days just as a matter of fact, but is it really an action? Is it really something that you are willing to put yourself on the line for? And only you can answer that. We're just talking now. We're talking now because all this leads up to our original origins. And, we want to believe that there are other beings, but when we go back to the origins of the beings who had a role in our engineering, we want to discard that. And we discard that because of the simple fact that we want to run away from our own truths, right? And those truths are the things that affect us because they happen in real time and in everyday life. And when we discuss them, we use the words like triggers to instigate. We use the word forgiveness to manipulate what forgiveness really is. So what is these words that we say in positivity, but they are anything but that if we really can't discuss them? So let's take it apart a little bit, right? Bear with me tonight. I'm going to use the word love and how convoluted the word has become. Now, when you love something from your heart and it's in different levels, that is something that you feel. But when you use the word love just because it's a positive word and you want people to think or you want them to feel that they are special and they're not, then we're just throwing that word around, right? We're being polite to one another. Because when you really love comes on many variants, and love is not always pretty because you're willing to walk in the trenches for the final outcome. And I ponder these things because these things are thrown around in the spiritual community, in every community. And yet the acts, because we are prejudiced to our own beliefs, take us down to a loveless road. Because we're always in fear of talking, and we're in fear of the energy, and we're in fear of the universe. When we are part of that universe, we use the word forgiveness as a taunt. I forgive you, but I don't ever want to fuck with you. I hear that constantly in the spiritual community. But you don't forgive, really. Because if you truly forgave, you'd be willing to understand what that forgiveness really means. If you think you're forgiven for your own self and then you're walking away from someone that you had a relationship with and you had one squabble maybe, and maybe it was deep, maybe it wasn't so deep, but you used that to become an enemy, then were you really a friend to begin with? Because forgiveness means that you would have to mend things, right? Or why can't we say there are acts that are so horrific that we could come to terms to it, but that forgiveness that we are expected to have doesn't exist. But coming to terms is the rehabilitation, because it allows us to make peace with ourselves. But we don't want to say the real truth to that, do we? Or what about the inappropriateness of people who do speak openly and honestly, and they were labeled because the tribe doesn't want them in their space? These are not things that the conscious elite get themselves involved with, because we are able to hold bound. We are solid as a rock. And yes, I do speak of myself. And we have all these things that happen, and we work through them, and we speak openly and honestly. You have to keep moving, because this planet has things that are happening that are chaotic, and nobody really wants to talk about it, because you want to throw the word around, and as you throw these words around, you are teaching lessons, and what you're doing is you are not coming together within your own tribe. A tribe comes together to work together. They don't always have to agree, but they have the same goal, and to stop the bullshit in between, and they call it. And in our communities, we have become like parasites, because the amount of ridiculousness that is being spoken does not lead you to be a better person. Why don't we just get real and say, we are better people? We don't always get it right, but we're moving forward. We have these principles, and we don't act hasty. We process and eliminate. And yes, we make mistakes, but the love that we have for humanity and ourselves is beginning to blossom. I see it all the time. I see the wares being sold, and because the wares are being sold, what is happening? It is becoming publicized, and the elite that are censoring you are laughing at you, because they really know the flip side of the coin, the energy, how it works. We're so busy wanting to outbest one another that we forget the human technique of it all. What about being a better person? What about caring? What about asking the questions that are happening and holding your ground? Can you do that? Can you do that and be honest with yourself instead of always bad-mouthing somebody? Can you just have a conversation that you don't agree on and just let it be? Can you call a spade and just let it go? Those are the things that we learn. One man in the United States brought a lot of things to light. He's only a conduit. But I saw our people depend on that one man, and now things are so out of control that our people are in bondage. We are in hostage situations throughout the world. And now we see what is happening. We see that people can't move without a vaccine. But if you stand up in numbers, they can't They can't force you. We see so many things happen, and yet we don't take a stand. And too much research is not good either. I'm going to tell you why. Because once you have the facts, unless you are compiling evidence and stories of people, you could get sucked in and consumed in that. And getting sucked in and consumed in something is not good for you. I've seen a lot of my beautiful people this week go through so many struggles, and I'm struggling too. But because there's a conscious eliteness in my mind and in my soul and my heart, it allows me to maintain a balance. And I could do it openly and honestly. But you all better get yourself together, because entertainment time is over. It's time to act. And you have to act for yourself, not for me, not because I tell you to do anything, because I'm just having a conversation with you. See, that never jived with me. Because I know there's things that money just can't buy. But if you are constantly looking to be sold a story, you're going to constantly be buying into the narrative. This is real. This is happening. Our people are suffering. Food shortages are beginning. People cannot make things stretch. Whether you believe that people were entitled to unemployment or not, they were cut off. There is more homeless in the streets now. California's a mess. Hawaii's a mess. New Yorkers are just going through a pace and forging ahead, and nobody's addressing things, even though they're talking about it. Your children are at stake here, and you're responsible for your children. And we could talk a mile a minute on this social platform, but this is a social platform where people get caught up in, because they are also living their life through a virtual life. And they're making a lot of money doing it because nobody wants to get off their ass and contribute. This is a working planet, like it or not. Like it or not, the Anunnaki had a lot to do with our engineering. And yes, there are other people that are considered alien life forms, but we're aliens, I guess, to them, right? Who have influenced this planet, but know your origins and understand why you're a slave, and you're still continuing to make it a color issue when we're all in the same boat, unless we do something to free our minds, our hearts, our souls. It's not about who has the best gifts. That's nothing. It's who works together, who understands respect, who understands what the light is, because they took the time to step into the light from the dark. And you all know what I'm saying, because we all feel this within our hearts. It's a right to be afraid. It's a right to be struggling at times. People are bullies out there. We know what people are capable of doing, and we know when you have to step back. We're not saying that. We're not being unsympathetic, but what we are saying is that when you get ugly in the process of it, in the name of your holiness, your righteousness goes away. So I am the type that will stand ground. And I will question when people throw things that are ugly and daggers. And I will be gentle when need be. But I won't forget my people who are struggling out there. I won't forget the children. I won't turn the cheek and succumb in mind to what is happening, because I understand that this is a planet of servitude. And somebody is always serving somebody. And that's a hard thing to swallow. And pedophilia does exist. And it's a big business. And they are hurting people who should have a chance. And I've said people because it's not just the babies. It's not just the young. It's people who have been tainted and become mentally ill and cannot come back into society. If you survive a lot and you're making it and you're doing what you can to be positive, you're ahead of the game by tenfold. And I salute you. If you're using spirituality or any type of higher awareness or any type of conversation to belittle people, I say you're an imbecile. If you judge people unfairly and you talk about them, it's apparent. This is a platform where I come on to share knowledge. I don't jive with too many people because I've seen the ugly. But I've always been consistent and stood my ground, and I'm not ashamed or afraid to say that I've made mistakes or I'm at fault sometimes, but I am this person who has transformed into this amazing individual, right? I'm not proclaiming I'm anything better than anyone, but I'm getting real and dealing with the situations that are happening. I'm not selling you butterflies and being nice on air, and then there's a constant drama and hate going on. That's not spirituality, guys. That's human nature living life. When you become spiritual, you understand how it is to connect. You understand what it is to take a topic and discuss it. And you understand what hatred is, because many people will come at you with daggers, but that'll never stop you. Because to be a true queen or a king, and I will talk as a true queen, is to understand what your leadership role is within your own self. And when you do that, you could understand why they're taking all your rights away. It's no joke what's happening out there. You better take care of your bodies. You better learn about diseases and your immune system. You better go as healthy as you can, and you better not listen to idiots that don't have your best interest at heart. Because while they are fighting in the States over their bills and saying how they are going to help the people, there are millions of people that are going to bed hungry. So yes, we should be careful what we do for entertainment, because they're laughing at us a dime a dozen. And they know if you come together, what will happen is that they don't stand a chance. So this is on you. And love does exist. And getting over pain does happen. And understanding that sometimes you have to revisit some things and just sit with it and then let it go is a big part of the healing process. You'll begin to get somewhere. But when you take the process of the holiness for granted, after a while, the universe reacts back. And then you could fall into victim mode. And we don't want that, do we? So be a little kinder today. Understand that people are getting sick. Understand now you should be differentiating between, what a positive result is and what happens, or how sick you get, or what you have to do in order to make yourself happy. And we come across all kinds of things. But heart and soul is the Mac Daddy. And when you have that, you become resilient. And when you become resilient, you can walk in the storm, in the eye of the storm, and be calm, yet hold grace for everything that's around you. And that's when the magic happens. Because the God, the all-knowing God, the God that created all, even in its sticky mess, understands the connection of where the being is sourcing to. So when you're sourcing, be very careful where you're sourcing to, because there's a lot of trickery going on. You feel this in heart and soul. You become impregnable. And you become a person that is a true queen because you understand the whole chess game. Peace out and rock out. It's been nice chatting with y'all.